Peter Valley, FBAmaster.com here. So this video you're about to watch is a little bit weird in a few ways. So first of all, what is it? It's a system I call price hacking. It is a system for finding underpriced books priced below their market value on Amazon right now, either whether they're mispriced unintentionally or intentionally, buying them up and then reselling them back on Amazon at their true market value for a profit. So I call this system price hacking. So why is this video weird? This video is weird in a couple ways. Number one, it's online arbitrage. I haven't really taught online arbitrage in like a few years. Number two, it's an archival video. I previously released this training you're about to get in 3 parts. Maybe it was like 3 years ago. I put it up on YouTube before I was really doing anything on YouTube. And it was only up for maybe like a month, and then I just took everything down for basically no reason. So you are the first to see this in a very long time, and some of the first to see this ever. And number 3 reason it's weird, it's really, really long and really detailed, and so you're going to want to take notes. And I want to give you this warning before we dive in. This is not a get-rich-quick push-button money system, okay? This takes a lot of effort, and it can be very tedious. But if you're, working a 9-to-5 job and you just want to kill some time, make some money on the side or whatever, this will work. But it is very long, and I want you to take some notes. Okay, so with that said, let's dive in. Welcome to this mini-series, this saga, this trilogy that we're going to call the Price Hacking Profit Series, where I'm going to break down an entirely new system that I've never talked about before, relating to how to capitalize on pricing inefficiencies, specifically mispriced and underpriced books. At any given moment on Amazon, there are hundreds of thousands of books that have been either mispriced by accident or underpriced on purpose, but never has there been a way to systematically profit off of those underpriced books until now. That's what we're gonna learn. This is gonna be kind of epic. I'm going really, really in depth. I want you to have your pen and pad out, and we're gonna get. Okay, so in this video, what are we gonna cover? I'm gonna talk about the definition of price hacking. What is it? How does it work? Then I'm gonna talk about why these pricing errors in underpriced books happen. Why does this exist in the first place? How is it possible that a book that has a market value of $100 can be temporarily priced at $30? How does that happen? I mean, there's 3 reasons. I'm going to give you all 3. Number 3, how many underpriced books are there at any given moment? As you're going through this video, you're going to be thinking, what is the real opportunity here? And I'm actually going to give it to you in super concrete terms. And you're probably wondering, how could I possibly know how many underpriced books there are at any given moment? And the answer is, not that I'm smart, it's that I know people who are smarter than me, specifically software developers who I have on my team, who literally combed Amazon's database like programmatically and came up with the exact number of how many books are priced more than 50% below their 12-month average. So that is specifically the number I'm going to reveal, and I think it's going to blow some minds. Okay, so here's a fact about me. If you follow me for any amount of time, you know this. I'm obsessed with finding weird ways to make money on Amazon. Sometimes they get really, really weird, and to the extent that I have people emailing me going, "Get me off your email list. This is too far out there." So this obsession of mine has taken me in some really weird directions. It's taken me into dumpsters, literally, like sourcing inventory from dumpsters, weird like barnyard auctions in the middle of some really creepy small town south places, even cassette tapes. I want you to look at this screenshot here. This is an actual article on FBA Mastery from a couple years ago where I actually took cassette singles, hundreds of them, singles. These were only existed for like 3 years between 1990 and 1993. They were cassettes. They were like the cassette version of like a 45 RPM like single, right? And they had 1 or 2 songs each. And I bought hundreds of these on eBay and sold them on Amazon as an experiment. And as it turns out, they actually sold. So the point is, I'm really obsessed with not just like buy this expensive, this cheap textbook and resell it for a high price. I'm obsessed with weird ways that no one else is thinking of. I've written books on the subject. It's just been a passion of mine for over a decade at this point, okay? Now, so that's what we're going to talk about. That's what led me to this price hacking system I'm gonna outline for you, which is my obsession with, okay, like I have to figure out something new here, and that's what I came up with. And so you're gonna get the whole fruits of that in this series. But before we do that, let's get this business out of the way. My name is Peter Valley. I've been selling Amazon for about 15 years at this point. I'm a super uncool web guy. To the website FBAmaster.com. I gotta mention, you can build a whole business off of what I give away for free at FBAmaster.com. I'm gonna post a link below. You can get everything you see here. It's over 600 pages of free stuff entirely for free at FBAmaster.com. Also, subscribe and like the YouTube channel. Actually, just subscribe. Let's just start there. If you don't subscribe, I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to take all your paintings on the walls, all your artwork, and I'm going to move them like 10 degrees off center. So you're just going to be completely disoriented. You're probably going to have seizures, and you can avoid this by subscribing to the YouTube channel immediately. Just do it right now. Hit the button below. Also, if you sell on Amazon, you need a repricer. I built the best one, the first repricer with no data blind spots, neuroprice.io. So we're here to talk about online sourcing, but this offline sourcing is where my heart is. When I talk about offline sourcing, most of us don't even think of it as offline. It's just normal book sourcing, right? Library sales, thrift stores, stuff like that, right? Okay, so that's where my heart is. I still do it. I still love it. And this is what most of us are doing, where most of us are getting probably all of our inventory is offline sources, right? However, online sourcing is also a very beautiful thing. Even though most of us don't do it, it's still beautiful because you could profit from anywhere. You could be at a hotel in Hawaii, or you could be in Timbuktu, wherever you want to be, and you can still make money because everything's virtual, right? You don't have to get out of your pajamas to do it. We can all agree that's awesome. And you get to make your own schedule, right? Amazon or the internet is a source that never closes, right? So online sourcing is a very fantastic, beautiful thing. Now, in 2015, I introduced this concept of online book arbitrage to the world, okay? Now, I know what you're thinking. This is the practice of buying cheap books on Amazon and then reselling them back on Amazon at a higher FBA price. My old online book arbitrage system, which is still current, it still works, but that original system I developed, that capitalized on one pricing inefficiency. This is a term that's going to come up over and over again in these videos. So I want you to kind of really understand what I'm talking about here. A pricing inefficiency is just a gap in prices for the same product between different markets, different platforms, et cetera, right? So in the case of my online book arbitrage system, the pricing inefficiency is the gap between the merchant fulfilled price and the FBA price, right? That's how you make money with online book arbitrage. Now, again, we're not here to talk about that. I just want to be clear. This is one type of a pricing inefficiency, right? It's the same item, but you can charge two different amounts for it, and that's what allows you to profit. Okay, so that's one pricing inefficiency. There's many different kinds of pricing inefficiencies that you can profit from. There's pricing inefficiencies between different websites, right? A lot of times you can buy books on eBay at one price and resell it on Amazon at a higher price. Now, these price inefficiencies, these discrepancies tend to get snatched up pretty quickly, right? So it's not like there's like massive amounts of opportunity, but this happens all the time. At any given moment, there are thousands, probably tens of, not hundreds of thousands of books on eBay for a price that is so much lower than Amazon that you can buy on eBay and resell on Amazon. Okay, so that's one kind of price inefficiency. Another one is really simple. This is the one we all capitalize on, right? The difference, the inefficiency between different mediums. In other words, internet versus the real world, right? So you buy at a library book sale for $1, and then you resell it on Amazon at a higher price because there's a pricing inefficiency between those mediums, right? So we can all understand that there's lots of money to be made off of pricing inefficiencies, right? So with that groundwork laid, I'm going to unveil to you in this video an entirely new way to profit from pricing inefficiencies, and a way to do this without leaving Amazon. This all happens within Amazon. You're still buying on Amazon and reselling on Amazon, but it's in a way that's never been talked about before. So here's something to really like take this in, okay? Because the entire system is premised on what you're going to learn in the next couple slides. There are hundreds of millions of price fluctuations happening every single day on Amazon just within the books category. Okay, you've got prices going up and down at an insane rate. If there was like some sort of auditory like rendition or manifestation of like how often prices go up and down, it would sound like a giant hive of bees buzzing. There's just prices going up and down all the time, right? Thousands of times probably per second. Okay, so. And it literally, like per second, okay? So that's the Amazon ecosystem, is prices just going wild all the time, up and down, up and down, up and down. Now, most of the time when prices fluctuate, there are a few cents here, a few cents there, right? That's most of the time. But amongst all that chaos, all that up and down, up and down, up and down, some very weird things happen. And that is the premise of price hacking. I'm gonna give you an example here. Here's an ISBN. In fact, in the third video in this series, I recorded how I found this book. So you're actually going to see exactly how I found this exact book, right? But for now, I'll just give you the numbers. Spoiler alert. 6-month average price for this book is $162. This is revealed in Keepa, okay? Without having to pay for it. The free data in Keepa. $162. I found this book when the current price was $42. That is almost 1/4. It's more than 1/3 of its 6-month average. And we can agree, I think we can agree, the 6-month average is going to be basically represent an item's true market value, right? Or, close to it, right? The merchant fulfilled price had temporarily, for a blip of history, had dropped to $42. The second lowest price in the same condition was $159. And the current FBA price was $176 as of the time I found this book, okay? So let's recap the numbers. Again, I'm paying $42. The number on the left is the profit if you just simply bought the $42 offer and relisted at the second lowest merchant fulfilled offer, which would then be the lowest because you bought out the lowest. It would then be the lowest because you bought out the lowest, right? You bought out the $42 offer. So that raises the price all the way up to, I forget what I said, $159, right? The profit when you pay $42 and relist that is $91.35 merchant fulfilled. That price on the right is if you match the lowest FBA price. When all the smoke clears, you're making $99. Now, what's important to understand here is you are still making money whether you relisted the book merchant fulfilled or FBA, which tends to be the case if the price that you find the book at is dramatically lower, like 50% or more lower than its 12-month or 6-month average, whichever number you want to use, right? So because it's so much lower than its average, you can buy the cheap copy. And we'll get into why these cheap copies happen, like why this even happens to begin with. Like, how did I find a $42 book? I'll show you not only why that happens, but exactly how to do it. So, but the point is, you can make money merchant fulfilled or FBA. It doesn't even matter, right? Because the nature of the price hacking is the book is dramatically underpriced. So, the premise of price hacking is this, and this is the slide, you guys. This one and the next one are the ones I want you to emblazon into your mind because the entire premise is wrapped up in these next two slides. Price hacking is defined as follows: buying mispriced or underpriced books and then reselling those books at their true market value. Okay? Remember, I showed you the true market value for that Star Wars book is somewhere in range of $150-ish, right? I found it for $42. Okay? That's what we're talking about here. And the second part of this, you can resell them either merchant fulfilled or FBA and still make money when you find the right book, right? So, and it's really clear. I want to be really clear about this. Most people watching this are probably FBA sellers. A lot of you aren't, and that's totally fine. So this is relevant to both, no matter which way you're selling. It does tend to translate to more profits if you're an FBA seller, even though the fees are higher. When you buy a book, let's say the average price is $100 and you pay $50 for it. What do you think that FBA price is? It's not going to be $100, right? Usually the FBA price is higher, right? So the degree to which the FBA price is higher usually more than offsets the increase in fees that you incur as an FBA seller. So you actually tend to make more money as an FBA seller, but this system is relevant to whether you're doing merchant fulfilled or FBA, okay? So now that we understand the premise, and hopefully some light bulbs are going off. You're like, I never thought about that. Like, yeah, like there's so much pricing going up and down. What are the odds at any given moment there's a few 100,000 books that are priced way below their true market value? There's a pretty decent, there's certainty of that, right? Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, we're going to cover why price hacking is even possible. How does it happen that a book is priced $42 when it could be sold for $160? It doesn't even make any sense, right? And by the way, I want to be really clear. When I'm talking about, like in that example I just gave you, 42 is the merchant fulfilled price. We're not buying FBA and reselling FBA. That's not even allowed. Amazon doesn't even let you do it. I'm talking about buying merch fulfilled, just to get that out of the way, okay? So there are 3 reasons that books are either mispriced or underpriced. I'm going to break down all 3 right now, because if you don't understand this part, you're going to be really skeptical as we go into the second and third video, okay? So I want to eliminate your skepticism right now. Why do crazy low prices happen? Reason number 1, repricing software that just runs wild. People sign up for repricing software, they set the rules, they put it in motion, and it spirals out of control, reprices all their inventory way below what they anticipated because either a setting wasn't set correctly or someone just didn't know what they were doing, or whatever the case may be. The repricer runs wild and drops all their prices way below what they should, and it ends up being a big nightmare. And it's not an indictment on repricing software. It's not that the repricing software isn't working. This is what you call user error. This is people not understanding how repricers work and dropping their prices accidentally or having the software do it for them. So this happens all the time, you guys. All the time this happens. This is a major problem. And I'm going to show you some screenshots of actual news, like mainstream news articles about repricing. How often does Amazon, anything related to Amazon software, make the news? This is how often this happens. These are real stories from real mainstream news outlets, or at least a couple of them. Business threatens lawsuit after Amazon UK prices dropped to a penny. This was a repricing software. Apparently it only affected the UK market. Dropped, I don't know how many, thousands of sellers, all their inventory to a penny. Imagine if you logged into Amazon at that exact moment and you caught all those books and you're able to buy 100 books for $1. Okay, that's what that amounts to. If it's FBA, it would be $1 for like just $1, not even shipping. But imagine if you just bought books that were normally $20, $30, $40 and you paid, $4, like a penny plus $3.99 shipping or whatever, right? Here's another article. App Eagle repricing glitch causes penny listings on Amazon. This is a totally different story, by the way. And this is a different software from the last one. Every Amazon seller's nightmare, a glitch that results in products being listed and sold for a penny, reads this article. Now, I haven't heard from App Eagle in a while. I meant to research if they even still exist, but I haven't heard from them. And I tend to think this might have either shut them down or they got acquired. I could be wrong. They could still be around. Maybe I'm out of touch. But hilarious, right? I mean, not hilarious for the people that are victimized by it, but this does happen. This is an art. You guys, this is one. I posted some stuff on FBA Mastery on my website that is a little bit that gets me some hate mail, and it's kind of controversial. This might be. There's only one other article I think I ever posted that was as controversial as this one. I have so much to say about this. We don't have time to go into all of it, so I'll just say this. I was out sourcing at a library bookstore, like a bookstore built into a library with my girlfriend at the time, and we were scanning books, and I think she was the one to point it out to me. She's like, "Hey, I just found a book that was a penny FBA." I mean, a penny, I mean, free shipping, meaning like you're actually just paying a penny. And I was like, give me the name of the seller, give me the storefront immediately. And so she gives me, I look it up, I'm like on my phone, and I find the seller, you see the screenshot here, Computech 411. They had over 500 books that their repricing software had apparently just run wild, repriced their books down to a penny. I think it was actually like 850 or something. It was some crazy number. And now this is where my hatred for repricing software kind of intersects with my being a teacher. I shouldn't editorialize too much as like a teacher, as a coach, but I had to do this article. So I immediately grabbed my laptop out of the car. I stopped sourcing books. I got on the Wi-Fi at the library, and I pounded out this article because it was time sensitive, because I knew the books were going to be gone really fast. So I I was like, everyone, Computech 411, all their books are a penny. The reason this was so controversial is that a lot of people were really, really upset with me for basically calling attention to what is an error from some, a seller error that they're going to lose money on. If you sell a book, FBA for a penny, guess how much money you're making? You're making like negative $3.50 per book, right? And now this is a lot harder to happen. This was a few years ago because Amazon has their low pricing error, like their algorithm that will deactivate a listing if they see it go too low. So you don't see these anymore. However, at the time, this was before that safeguard existed, and so I got a lot of hate mail. You see there's 41 comments for this article. A lot of people were like, that's not cool. The reason I did this is I have zero pity for anyone that is victimized by repricing software. We don't have time for me to go into my editorial about repricing software, but you get exactly what you sign up for if you turn over your inventory to a robot. So that's my feeling about that. That's a totally separate subject. But the point is, I actually have seen on many occasions, this is just the one example I wrote about, I've seen on many, many occasions, I've been out sourcing, and I look in the FBA column on my app, and I'm like, oh wow, there's a book for a penny. I click over, and it's the exact same thing. It's happened a ton of times. And so this happens all the time, okay? So reason number 2, some of you are appalled. You're like, you did what? Yeah, I did it. Okay, so why do crazy low price happen? Reason number 2, sellers having a fire sale. This may be relatable to some of us watching this, right? Like, let's say you're in desperate need of cash, or you've got a certain strata of your inventory, like long-term storage fees are coming up, and you just want to get rid of a bunch of books. So you just drop all your prices to some crazy low amount just to get them out the door, right? Some of us who are watching this video that maybe have even gotten out of the Amazon selling business. Maybe you're watching this because you want to get back in or something. When you get out of the business, what do? Most people don't just let their inventory just ride out. They go and just drop all the prices just to get it, just be done with it, right? So sellers having a fire sale, which can happen for lots of different reasons. They're getting out of the business, they're desperate for money, or whatever the case may be, right? Happens all the time. All the time. At any given moment, there are hundreds, possibly thousands of sellers having a fire sale, right? The question is, how do you identify what those sellers are, what their offers are, so you can jump on them before somebody else does? And that, spoiler alert, is really what I'm going to reveal here at the end of this video. Okay, so most Amazon sellers are not business people. I hate to say it, most Amazon sellers, and I'm kind of this way, like I'm not like a business person, right? I'm just good at one thing, but most Amazon sellers aren't business savvy. And so they have not just fire sales that make sense, like just fire sales that make sense. Like I said, you're getting out of the business, that makes sense. There are tons of sellers having irrational fire sales all the time. Irrational meaning they just have, they have their books listed for a week or 2 weeks. They're new, and all books don't sell, and they freak out and they drop their prices, right? Happens all the time. And you'll see this. If you just scan Amazon, you'll see this happen all the time, right? Okay, so crazy low prices. Why do they happen? Reason number 3, sellers who have no idea what they're doing. Now, there's a lot of overlap between this one and the first two, right? But sellers who have no idea what they're doing, I'm going to tell you why this is personal for me. And I'll repeat this again. I'll tell a story here in a second. Most Amazon sellers are not business people. And so what that means is they have low pricing self-esteem. And this is a very real phenomenon. I'll tell you a story in a second. What I mean by this is they think, well, who am I? I'm just a nobody. I'm listing something for sale. A lot of you guys might remember this, and you're like, when you got started, and you're like, yeah, like, well, these other sellers, they can get, $30 for their book, but they're experienced, and they have, more feedback than I do or whatever. So I'm going to, maybe the price is 30, but I'm going to price mine at 15, right? Does this resonate with any of you? This happens all the time. This happened to me. Literally, I became an FBA seller just before Christmas in 2011, I believe was the year. I was selling books before that. Or was it 2010? Anyway, whatever it was. And I remember when I shipped all my books into Amazon, it was just before Christmas. And even though I'd been selling books for a few years as an FBA seller, I was like, I know I'm supposed to price higher, but I'm going to price like $4 higher. I'm not going to price like $30 higher, which is what I should have done, right? Especially just before Christmas. And so I shipped everything in, and I priced everything, like if the lowest merchant filled was 10, I priced mine at like 14. And like almost everything sold over the next couple weeks. And I was like, oh shoot, I priced, it's like they say, if it sells too fast, you price too low, right? And so this happened to me. And so I understand how this can happen. Like this is a very real thing for me. So low price and self-esteem is a real thing. So there's more other reasons too, but these are the 3 big ones, right? The ones I just mentioned. So again, when you add all these together, at any given moment, there are hundreds of thousands of grossly underpriced books. I'm just talking about books. I'm not even talking about other categories at any given moment on Amazon. So this all bears out one giant fact, which again, there are hundreds of thousands at any given moment of these books out on Amazon, right? The question is, how do you find them? Okay, so I keep teasing, there's hundreds of thousands. Like, how do I really know? Well, let's get into it. I'm actually going to reveal right now exactly how many underpriced books there are on Amazon as of a couple days before I recorded this video, okay? So as of about 2-ish days ago, I'm going to give you the true number of pricing errors. And, errors, whether they're priced accidentally or underpriced, I don't really know the exact ratio, but the true number, we'll just call them errors because there's crazy no matter what. The true number of pricing errors, I'm going to reveal it to you right now. And I know what you're thinking, like, how could he possibly know? Well, let me explain. I have a software developer who works on my, I have a few tools. Our main one is Zen Arbitrage. And so I had the developer. What we do with this data that we use for Zen Arbitrage is we save a lot of it for different reasons, right? So we have this like big database. So I was like, all right, I asked my developer, I was like, is there any way you can write a program that will like automatically just comb through all the data we've saved and basically just crunch the numbers on Amazon's database on the total number of books that were 50% or more below their 12-month average? So there's a couple things going on here. It's really important to understand. This number I'm going to give you is only for books that are dramatically underpriced. I don't just mean like, oh, the average price is $30 and it's currently $27. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about books where the average price is $30 and it's below $15. Okay? Books that are 50% or more below their 12-month average. So why did I choose 12 months? I could have done 6, I could have done 3. 12 months I think is a good data set, right? That's like a good representation of the book's average price, okay? So he wrote the script and he got me a number, okay? Now, drum roll, are you ready? I don't know if you can hear me pounding the desk. This is a drum roll. I have the number. As of 2 days ago, at that exact moment in time, the total number of books priced 50% or more below their 12-month average is 331,093 books. That's the number, you guys. And let me tell you why the actual number is even higher. We don't have everything in our database, right? So we have about 25-ish million books in our database. The actual number of books on Amazon tells you it's higher, but I think it's more like 35 or 40. It's not the number they give you, which is like 80 or 90. That's bogus. But it's like roughly, the point is we have most of Amazon's database, but not all of it, right? So in our database, 331,000 books priced 50% or more. Okay, so let's put that in perspective. There's roughly 35-ish, 40 million books on Amazon, right? Each page on Amazon, meaning if you did a search like biology or whatever, there's 20 books in the results per page, right? So that means there is one severely underpriced book every 5.5 pages. That's not a lot of work, right? 5 pages, if you had a way to systematically identify what those books were. And that's the step-by-step process I'm going to give you the next video, but we're not done with this one yet. If you had a way to scan every Amazon page, just like had X-ray vision or something, you would find one every 5.5 pages on average, okay? And that's just really underpriced, right? So the question then becomes, how do we find these books? And this is where things are going to get really step-by-step. Exactly how to find mispriced and underpriced books. By the way, spoiler alert, in the third video, I'm actually going to show raw footage of this in action. So like you have just like got to watch that video. If you have any degree of skepticism about how this works, if it works, you've got to watch that video. But now let's dive into it. I hope you guys are taking notes. When I said step-by-step, like I literally mean I'm walking you through the steps right now. So you've got to write this stuff down, okay? Step number 1, hopefully if you're an Amazon seller, you've done this already. Install Keepa. Keepa is a browser extension. Most of you should know what this is. If you do not, it is priceless. I need you to install Keepa. It works in Chrome or Firefox. Just go to keepa.com. Really easy. Install Keepa. Then I want you to go to the settings. Now you can do this on the Keepa webpage, or you can also it's easier just to do this on the Amazon page. So what I want you to do is once Keepa's installed, go to any page on Amazon, do any search for any book or anything, and it'll bring up a Keepa chart. You'll scroll down a little bit. When you see the Keepa chart, you're going to see this, what you see right here on the screen, okay? I want you to click the settings tab. You see right there at the top where it says settings. I want you to click that tab, okay? Some of you are like, wow, I didn't really know he's going to go this step by step. Yes, I'm actually going to I'm like holding your hand through this whole process. Okay. And this is just laying the groundwork. We're going to get into the actual process here in a minute. Okay, next up, you have to set your chart appearance in Keepa. It doesn't matter if this doesn't make sense yet. This will all make sense in a second. Right where it says chart appearance in the settings tab, I want you to click on used. Now, here's the deal. You can click on new as well. However, I strongly encourage you, unless you're a Keepa Jedi, I strongly encourage you to not do that yet, okay? Because the reason is every single thing that we do to slow down the price hacking process is going to cost us money, right? Because again, if you're looking at a chart, you need to be able to size up in this chart. I'll show you in a second. Split second, whether or not it's worth your time, and move on. We don't want any bottlenecks, any friction whatsoever, okay? So if you're a Keepa Jedi, then yes, you can also set to new. But just if you're new to Keepa or you're not quite Jedi level yet, keep it to use, okay? Next up, the range. What do you want the chart to show? Now, I'm kind of two minds about this. I'm actually torn between 3 months and a year, and it sort of depends on a lot of things we don't really have time to get into, but I'm going to recommend 3 months simply because it allows you to see abrupt price drops more easily. However, it's just there's strong benefits to doing a year as well. So it might be, let's start with 3 months, and then I want you to also test with a year, and if you have a really good eye, A year actually works a little bit better in terms of giving you more data, but 3 months is what I'm going to recommend for you to start. Filter extreme values, set to no. Now, I'll be honest, I really don't get what this is, okay? But because we're looking for extreme values inherently in what we're doing with price hacking, I'm going to go ahead and say you're going to set this to no, but I don't even really know what a chart looks like side by side when it has this enabled and not enabled. So let's just set it to no to be safe. Step number 3, this is where it gets really interesting. This is what most people do not know about, a setting most Keepa users do not know about. You scroll down a little bit in the settings, and where you go to add-on settings at the bottom, there's a section where it says show price history graphs as overlays when hovering over Amazon products. It's a lot of words. Most people miss this. I want you to set that to yes. This is where it gets really good, okay? Now, you see just to the right of that where it has the word setup, just to the right of yes there where I have circled, this is setup. You need to click that next. That will bring up this box, okay? There's a couple things you can do here. Now, what this basically sets how the chart is going to appear. Now, if I wasn't clear before, when you enable this to yes right here, what this means is, and I'll show you this in a second, when you hover over any product on Amazon in the search results, it'll actually bring up a Keepa chart. So you don't have to click on anything at this point. Once you have this enabled, you just hover over any book and it'll instantly bring up a chart. It's very, very cool and very powerful. So this sets how the chart looks. So this is again what I said before. If you're really good at Keepa, you can set to new and used, but I strongly recommend against it because even me, after using Keepa for years, I find it slows me down a lot to have both enabled. So if you have a brain that works better than mine, okay, then you can set to new and used, but I'm gonna recommend most of us to set to used, okay, because it's just more clutter, it slows us down, and with speed, this entire game is about speed, okay, so that's what we're trying to do here. Next up, choose 180 days or 365 days for the range. I know it says 90 there, ignore that. 180 days or 365 days, okay? There are benefits to both. I kind of lean towards 180, mostly because when it's 365, you sometimes you can't see the price drop at the very tail end of the chart, which is oftentimes what we're looking for. But 365 days, of course, more data to work with. So, okay, so what magical powers did we just unleash? Well, let me spell it out for you. See that arrow on the left-hand side of the screen pointing to the cover of a book? Now, what we just enabled is the ability to hover over any cover of any book, any image, and brings up the chart there on the lower right-hand corner. What that chart is the pricing history of a book. So now what we can do is we can look at in a split second, we can look at the pricing history of a book and see, oh wow, it looks like the book is priced way below its average. And what's even better is if you look there to the right of the chart, you see where it says marketplace used $6.40. That is the current lowest price of the book in used condition. The reason that's so powerful is what we can do now is look at the chart next to it and see if the current used price is well below its average price. For example, you see maybe it's a little bit difficult to make out, but you can see the average price tends to be, looks like it's around $15, and then all the way on the far right hand side, that line takes a dramatic plummet downwards to the $6.40 amount that you see right now. So what that means is, and this isn't the best example because you don't really want to be buying, books that have an average price of $15 because there's not really any money to be made there. But the point is, this is the kind of pricing anomaly that we're looking for, and we just dramatically streamline the process because prior to enabling these charts, we would have to click over for every single book, which now we've reduced the time required for price hacking by like 90+%. It would have taken 5-10 minutes to do a whole page before, and now we can do an entire page. We can analyze an entire page in a minute. Just boom, 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 right down the line, just hover over every image, glance at the chart, move on to the next book. So that's the whole system. It'll become all more clear here in a second. Now, I want to zoom in on the chart here. That price, you see where it's circled there, it says marketplace used. That's the current lowest price. So now you have a much better view of how powerful this is because at a glance, we can see, wow, okay, so the chart, all right, so it's, the average is around this amount, lots of fluctuations. And then what we're looking for, these price anomalies we're looking for, is on the far right, you want to see that line drop way downward. Now, it doesn't have to be as bunched up as it is here. Sometimes the book can be underpriced by, for days or sometimes weeks at a time, and have that book still rebound to its average price. This will all become clear in a second. I just want you to understand, we're juxtaposing the number you see there where it says used with the actual chart and looking for discrepancies. And in addition to that, we're looking for the line plummeting downward. Okay, this is really, really powerful. And again, the next video that you'll get in a couple days, I'm going to actually show you a video of exactly how this works. So what do we just do? We embed pricing charts on every Amazon page. We enable the displaying of extreme values. We enable the hover graphs, increasing our search speed by 10 times or more. We put the current price side by side with historical chart everywhere on Amazon, so at a glance we can tell if books are underpriced. And essentially what we did is we gave ourselves x-ray goggles to see underpriced books everywhere on Amazon. We put the chart right there on the Amazon page, we put the current price right there, everything's right where we can see it, and that allows us to very, very quickly look for underpriced books. Now we're going to talk about automating price hacking. Now, automation is everyone's favorite word, right? Now, this has two sort of contexts in price hacking. One is what I'm about to teach you right now. The next is the tool that automates the process, which is totally separate than what I'm about to talk about. I'll get to that at the end of this video, okay? So there's sort of two ways to automate this. Now, I'm going to go through this part very quickly, simply because what we're going to do here is not terribly precise, but what it does allow us to do is have Keepa email us underpriced opportunities so they just land in our inbox, which is kind of like the fantasy, right? If you just had emails every day just showing up going, hey, there's an underpriced book. Now, this is a little bit like scattershot in how we're going to do this, so it's not quite perfect. We can't operate with precision, but let me tell you how this works. Keepa has another feature I haven't talked about yet. It's their track product feature that lets you set up price drop email alerts. What that means is you can tell Keepa, hey Keepa, anytime the price for this particular book drops below this amount, I want you to send me an email. So what this allows us to do is go through and set email alerts for any single time a book price drops more than 50% below its average. And I'll show you this in a second. So you're going to get an email or a desktop alert. You can enable desktop alerts too. So you just get a little pop-up box in your browser. That's really cool too. So there's two approaches for these price drop alerts. You can set emails up for everything totally randomly. In other words, you just go through Amazon, just totally scattershot, and just every time you see a book that's, I don't know, that looks cool or whatever, or maybe you want to focus on textbooks or whatever, you just set up an email alert. Totally just like without any real formula to it. Just set up email alerts for every single time you look at a book. Or you can set up email alerts for anything that's currently below its average, but not enough for it to buy yet. In other words, if you see a book that's trending downward and you're like, if this book dropped another 10 or 20%, I'd be in. Then you can set alerts for books that just fit that criteria, right? So you can do it either way. So here's how it works. Step number one, click on any single book on Amazon. Step number two, go to the track product tab at Keepa right there at the top. Step number three, click inside the used or new field. So in other words, there's a new field and a used field. Click inside the field where you edit the prices and it brings up this pop-up. Now I want you to look very closely at that pop-up, right? You can see there right down towards the middle of the pop-up, it says 180-day average. That's the number that we're looking at, okay? So you can see for this particular book, the 180-day average, 6-month average is around $87. This is very, very valuable information that Keepa gives us right where we need it. Since we know the 6-month average is $87 and we're looking for books that are 50% or more below their average, which by the way, if you keep wondering why I keep saying 50%, I'm about to get to that in the next section. There's something magic about that number. That is the number we're going to focus on. I'll tell you why here in a minute. So what we're going to do is look at the 6-month average, cut that in half. So it is 87, 43, 43.50, 44. It doesn't have to be exact. Enter the amount that's 50% of its 180-day average. Okay, you can do it for used or you can do it for new. A lot of people don't like to resell new books. I don't really know why. I think it's a bad habit to get into to avoid those. But whatever you want to do, used and new, you can set a price drop alert. So then Keepa's going to email, like for this book, Keepa will email you instantly when it detects the price has dropped to $43. So what that means is every time you get an email, you basically know you're going to be making money on that book, right? It's amazing. So the downside of that, I just want to be clear, is that you can't just go through, you can set up unlimited alerts, but you can't just, there's no way to just like tell Keepa, hey Keepa, email me every time any book drops below 50% of its average, right? Like you have to do each one manually. And so it's kind of a bottleneck, and that's what I said a few seconds ago, which is this sort of scattershot. There's no way to like systematize this process. So that's the downside. but it is very cool. And since I actually don't know how long the alerts last. I think they last forever. I actually don't know. But anyway, whatever the case may be, you have unlimited number of them. So, there's a point where, when you've got 100, 200, 300, 500, then 1,000, then 2,000, you start setting up so many alerts that like you're getting emails every single day, and it gets really, really exciting. Okay. So part 3 to this video, manual mispriced book detection. This is actually what you came for. This is the price hacking process. Everything up to this point has been laying the groundwork for what we're about to cover. So here it is, the step-by-step price hacking process. We're going to cover this in more detail here in a second. I'm just going to tear through these. Step number 1, you go to the books category. Step number 2, do a search. Do a search for anything. It does not matter. The only thing that matters is you do a search that's going to bring up expensive books. If you do a search for Cliff Notes, it's just going to bring a bunch of cheap books. You don't want to deal with cheap books. Pick a keyword that biases the results towards more expensive books. Step number 3, hover over every single book. Just go down the page. Boom, 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 boom. Compare the current price to the average price. Compare the current price you see in the chart to what the average price appears to be. And you can scrutinize it later. But again, we're just trying to size things up at a glance. Compare the current price to the average price as reflected in the charts. Step number 4, which is optional, set up a price alert for anything that just looks good to you. Step number 5, you want to confirm the sales rank. We don't want to be doing this with books that are ranked like 10 million, right? You want the book. This can actually work for books that are ranked that are still poorly ranked, like 2 or 3 million or whatever. I recommend not doing it with books that are just like way out there, like 5, 6, 8 million. I recommend not doing that, okay? Step number 6, confirm the sellability of the underpriced offer. Sometimes the lowest priced offer, that underpriced offer, isn't really sellable. It's water damaged, whatever, just confirm it's sellable. Step number 7, buy the book, relist at the average price or the second lowest merge fulfilled price or the lowest FBA price. I'll get into all your options here in a second. Relist at the higher price. Again, because we're buying underpriced books, right? So you don't even have to just you can do merge fulfill, FBA, like however you want to do it. It should work out. Repeat the process. Optional, you can change the chart settings. Remember I said pick used. You can go back, reset the charts to new, and do the same searches over again and just reassess every single book in new condition, okay? Okay, now we're gonna go into these in more detail. Step number 1, go to the books category in Amazon. Step number 2, do a search. It doesn't matter what you do a search for. The best search terms are going to be search terms that bring up more expensive books, like for example, textbooks, box sets, like stuff like that, because it tends to work better with more expensive books. But it really doesn't matter what you pick. Just pick a word, but don't just go on page 1 of Amazon. Definitely pick a search term. Step number 3, hover over every book. Now that you've done a search, you start going down the page 1 book at a time, dragging your cursor over the cover image of every single book. Now here's what you're going to look for. We've already covered this, but look at the chart there. You're going to look at the lowest used offer, which is right there next to the chart, just to the right of that. At a glance, you're going to go, okay, 32 bucks. Then you're going to look at the chart. You can see there on the numbers running down the left side of the chart. You should be able in a split second to be able to determine roughly what the average price of the book is. I don't mean a specific number. I just mean you can see, okay, this book on average, like with this chart, for example, this book on average is selling about 30, so what it's selling for right now. But if you see that the average price, if it spends a lot of its time, most of its time above $50, but then the current price is $15, then you've got a winner, right? So all you're doing is comparing the used price you see in the far right with what the chart represents. That's number 1. That's one thing you're looking for. The second thing you're looking for, either one of these is fine. The second thing you might be looking for is if on the far right-hand side of the chart, which should be like, the present day, if the line drops dramatically downward. And oftentimes you can't see it because the lines can be kind of bunched up, but that is the best sign of all. Right? When you see that line plummeting way downward, and then you actually look at the used price there on the far right and go, wow, yeah, this actually is dramatically underpriced, right? So you're looking for either one of those things. Both of them together obviously are ideal. But you're not always going to be able to see the line dropping downward. So most of the time, all you have to be looking for is, hey, what's the price right now? And then what does the chart what average price does the chart seem to represent, okay? Now, don't worry if this sounds complicated. It's not at all. You can just simply, once you get good at this, you can at a glance, just like boom, boom. It takes like literally 1 second per book, okay? So this is not hard at all, right? It's really, really easy. You'll get the hang of this very, very quickly, but those are the 2 things that you're looking for. Step number 4, if you see a book and you decide to set a price alert, go ahead and set a price alert for it. We talked about that. Step number 5, 5, confirm the sales rank. So once you've got a book that you think looks good, confirm the sales rank and make sure this book is actually has decent demand, right? And if you don't know how sales rank works, it's not that hard. There's lots of information out there. I recommend, if you're going to start, stick to books that are $1 million or better, meaning a lower number. But there's nothing absolute about that number. It just works out better, obviously, with books that are in high demand. Step number 6, confirm the sellability of the underpriced offer. So I want you to look at the lowest price offer. Sometimes there'll be several that are the same price. And I want you to make sure that they're actually books that you can actually buy and then resell. Are they water damaged or anything really big glaring red flags you look for? Just make sure it's actually something you can, if you're going to buy it, that you can resell it without any trouble. So again, binding shouldn't be broken, obvious stuff, right? Step number 7, analyze your pricing options. Okay, so now that you've identified an underpriced book, you need to actually take a closer look at the Keep It charts and start to determine, is this a book that I can actually resell for a profit? So one thing you want to look for, what is the pricing stability of the book? Does the price seem to have been stable over years? There are lots and lots and lots of books whose prices actually do not trend downwards. Now, textbooks usually are, that's not the case, right? As new editions come out, it doesn't mean the old books don't sell, they just don't sell as fast. So there's an overall downward trend. But it is a fantastic sign if you notice, if you zoom all the way out to all time on the Keep It charts, it's a fantastic sign if you see the price is actually relatively stable over years. That is a home run book, because what that means, and we'll get to in the next slide, is that you can plan to just buy that book and reprice at the average price. And since the price is so stable, it'll revert back to that average price eventually, and you will get a sale. And you get even higher sale, obviously, as an FBA seller. Next thing to look for, is it a lone wolf offer? This is the best kind, where it's just a single book that somebody's come along and dropped the price on, and there are not other books that are also the same price. So you see both, right? You see books where it's just someone just repriced one offer way below its average. And then you see also books where the current price is well below its average, and it's there's a bunch of other offers that sort of chased it downward, and they're all just kind of hovering there, right? You can still work with those. It's not ideal, right? Have other sellers chased the offer down? That's kind of what I just referenced. Is this underpriced offer, is it one of just one? Or, in other words, a lone wolf offer, or is it one of many? And if it's one of many, you want to ask yourself, hey, can I buy out my competition? Can I simply buy out the other offers, buy all of them, so that there's really no other competing offers? And then, let's say there's 3 lowball offers that are, 50% or more below their average. Then is the fourth one, $50 higher. Cool. You can buy your competition, buy all 3 books, then just relist them all at the $50 price, right? And because you know your average, you can be reasonably confident the price is not going to drop down again. This is just an anomaly. Remember, prices tend to revert back to their average. There are lots of other things you can look for. Even if there are other books that also have chased that offer down, sometimes they're not really competing offers. In other words, the books are really damaged, and you can buy one that's in very good condition. There's a bunch of really damaged books in acceptable condition. There's lots of ways you can analyze offers and figure out. And the point of all this is to figure out how you're going to price your book, right? Is it a book you can sell for a profit? You obviously want to look at the FBA competition if you're an FBA seller. There's lots to analyze here, but again, this goes really, really fast. In the next video, I'm going to show you exactly how I analyze books. That's why I'm going kind of fast here. I'm actually going to walk you through, like in real time, offers, analyzing different books that I've been price hacking. Okay, so now that we've done that, and if we answer those questions, that lets us determine our expected selling price. So we've got a few options here. You can just buy out the dramatically underpriced book and then relist it at either the 12-month or the 6-month average. Keep It will show you 6 months. There's ways to get 12 months. I'll talk about that here in a minute. And so you can price at one of those. That's one option. In other words, if the book, especially the book is not trending downwards necessarily over time, if the price is pretty stable, then yeah, this is what you should do. Number 2, you can, since the offer you're looking at is the lowest offer, if the second lowest offer is way, way, way up, like in other words, it's a lone wolf offer, and you just buy that up and just relist it just below the second lowest price, which is now the lowest price, since you bought out the actual lowest price, you can do that. That's an ideal situation, right? That's what we're all looking for. Those lone wolf offers, we simply buy them up for 20 and then relist them just below the second lowest offer, which then is the lowest offer. Number 3, the lowest FBA price. You can simply relist as an FBA seller, if that's what you are, and I think most of us are watching this. You can simply just relist at the lowest FBA price, and that's the easiest way to do it all, right? It's just a total home run, because again, we're just, we're buying books that are underpriced and then relisting at a higher price as an FBA seller. It just become too easy. Okay, now we've analyzed the books. We know how we're going to price them. We simply buy the book and relist it, right? And also maybe wedged in here, we might want to run the numbers through the Amazon profit calculator and determine what your actual expected profits are going to be. Buy and relist. So you can obviously sell merch fulfilled, or you can resell FBA. A lot of people that are FBA sellers don't even know they can resell merch fulfilled. Now, it's probably a fact that merch fulfilled, you'll actually get a sale a lot faster, because if your plan is to just match the lowest merch fulfilled offer, that usually gets a sale faster than matching the lowest FBA offer. There's a lot of confusion about this, but that actually is the case. In my experience, right? So you can relist merch fulfilled even if you're an FBA seller and just get a quick sale. Or if you're an FBA seller and you want the most amount of money, not necessarily a quicker sale, you can relist FBA. And sometimes you can get a quicker sale FBA too, right? It's not, the future is not written in stone, but those are your two options. Okay, so then you just relist at your chosen selling price, get a sale, and repeat the process. And that is price hacking. Okay, so here's what you can expect with price hacking. These are the raw numbers. This is what I covered in the last video, is that you can expect one dramatically underpriced book, in other words, underpriced by 50% or more every 5.5 pages. And again, this is my developer actually run the numbers. This is exactly how it plays out, okay? Number two, you can expect a steady stream of profitable books coming in via email from the Keep a Price alerts once you get critical mass. In other words, once you've set up lots and lots of Keep alerts, you'll start to see these come in pretty consistently. Okay, so that's what you can expect once you get some momentum with price hacking. Now we're gonna get into the more raw numbers of price hacking. You've noticed I kept harping on 50%, 50% below, 50% below, right? Why do we keep saying 50%? Let me get into it. So we're gonna cover here the 50%, what I call 50% rule, and how the prices break down with merch fulfilled books in terms of the fees. Because a lot of you, if you're selling FBA, you forget how much lower the fees are as a merch fulfilled seller. I'm gonna give you the profit breakdown and how the fees work out with the 50% rule when you're selling FBA, okay? And I'm gonna tell you the FBA advantage, why underpriced books are the ultimate insurance as an FBA seller against ever losing money buying a book. So if you've ever followed my online book arbitrage model, where you're buying merch fulfilled books and then relisting FBA, which you're still doing here in many instances, if not all instances, you're still doing it here. But again, with my online book arbitrage model, you're just buying the book no matter what it's priced at that particular moment, right? You're not really concerned with what its average is. What this is so different about price hacking is you're only buying books that are so underpriced that it's almost like if you know how to read the numbers, it's almost impossible to lose money, right? Especially if you're reselling FBA, it's just it's the ultimate insurance against ever losing money. Because what happens with my online book arbitrage model, unfortunately, a lot of times, and if you're not familiar with that, don't worry, I'm not going to talk about that much. But if you're buying a book at $50 and relisting it at $100, well, the lowest FBA might be $100 now, but it might drop to 75, and then you're breaking even, and then it can drop to 70, and then you're losing money, right? But when you're buying books priced dramatically below their average, you've got that much more wiggle room, because instead of spending $50 for the book, you're paying $25 for the book. So the FBA price has to drop way, far more downwards. Is that a word? It has to go way lower before you're losing money. So that's how it's the ultimate insurance. And more hints on this price hacking automation tool that I'm afraid I'm going to say too much about. So I don't want to give it too much away. But let's say, here's some example, right? So this is a book I found. The cost of the book was $25. Average price was $50, right? So if we just relisted at the average price of $50, your merchant fulfilled net profit is $15. Now, most FBA sellers, if you're an FBA seller, you're like, wow, either you never knew that merchant fulfilled fees were that much less, or you just forgot, like me. I forget sometimes, right? But that's how that number works out. So you pay $25 for a book, you relist it for $50, your net profit's $15. So the fees are only $10 with merchant fulfilled, right? It's easy to forget that. So that's how the numbers work out with merchant fulfilled. Let's take that same book where the lowest FBA price, I actually left it out of the left-hand column here, but the lowest FBA price is $67. So the average price was $50, lowest FBA was $67, so we're paying $25 for this book, and we're going to relist it at $67, and our net profit becomes $24. Okay, so again, 67 is not that much higher than 50, right? That's pretty normal. That's a normal gap between the merch fulfilled price and FBA price, right? And so again, but we're making, I already forgot. We're making almost $10 more as an FBA seller off this book, right? And again, we could not have made this money if we bought at the average price. The average price is $50. If we had paid $50 for this book, Merch Fulfilled, we're losing money relisting FBA, right? But because it's underpriced, we're making money. That's the beauty of it. So buying underpriced books is basically bulletproof insurance, especially as an FBA seller, but Merch Fulfilled as well. Purchasing books priced 50% below, and when we talk about average, another way to look at that is a book's true market value. In other words, the market is speaking when the average price is X dollars. If the average price of a book is $50, the market has spoken. In other words, the collective number of consumers out there for that book have spoken with their wallets and said, hey, we have assigned a value to this book of $50. That number does not lie. That is the market value of the book, right? It just is. That's just how, again, I'm not an economics whiz, but that's just how it works. So when I talk about average price, another way to look at it, and actually a better way to look at it for our purposes, is what is the actual value of this book? The value is not what it is at any given moment. The value is the average. That's what the consumers have assigned the value to the book, right? So purchasing books priced 50% below their true market value is the best insurance against ever losing money on a book, because books, nothing can stay out of prices cannot stay out of whack very long. They're going to revert back to their average, right? Now, that doesn't mean they're always going to revert back to their exact average, right? But if something's 50% or more below, it doesn't. A book just doesn't just drop 50% and stay there. Like, I'm not saying it never happens, but that's not how, again, like if the market just doesn't decide collectively one day, okay, this book is, on Monday it's worth 50 and then on Tuesday it's worth 25. The book is going to trend back upwards, or if not, maybe not even trend, it may just abruptly just rebound like a rubber band back to $50, right? So that's how that works, and that's why it's such good insurance against ever losing money. Now, another reason that price hacking is the best insurance against losing money on a book is it's so simple, it doesn't even need to be said. If you cut your cost by 50%, by definition, you increase your profit margins by 50%, right? So again, we're cutting our costs by 50%, so our margins go up, which is that much more buffer against losing money. So now let's get into what I call the 50% rule. Why do I keep saying 50%? Is there something magic about that number? Yes and no. Let me just explain. 50%, when a book is priced 50% below its true market value, that is roughly the price where you're making decent money on any book $15 and up, even if you sell it merchant fulfilled. Okay? Now, a lot of us, if not most of us, if not all, I don't know who's watching it, probably we'll say most of us are not used to paying $15 for a book, right? Now, most of us, if we've never sourced online before, you're like, hold on, man, I'm paying, $2 at the thrift store. Why am I paying? So this is a mental adjustment for a lot of people. You have to get used to paying more. So that is something I maybe should have gotten out of the way in the first video, which is you are going to be spending more, but the return on your investment is a lot higher as well. And you get to hang out in your pajamas and source books. So that's cool too, right? So 50% is roughly the level where like you're just making money no matter what, right? And the other thing about 50%, because there can be books priced 35% below their average and you're still making money, right? But 50% is an easy number to remember. And it's really easy to look at a number, cut it in half. Like it's so much easier, and so much of this game is about reducing our mental labor and our physical labor and just streamlining everything, right? Because if you went on Amazon and did a search and you're just clicking and analyzing every single book, you're not going to succeed at price hacking. So everything you can do to streamline, 50% is a nice round number. You see a book where the average price is 90, it's easy to cut that in half to 45. It makes everything so much easier, right? Now for you FBA sellers, you really, really need to internalize this, okay? If you're buying a book that is 50% below its 12-month merchant fulfilled average, you know you're not going to lose money as an FBA seller if you know you're not going to lose money even at the merchant fulfilled price. Do you see how powerful this is? In other words, if you're like me, you don't sell any books merchant fulfilled. But even if it came down to that where you had to, you're still not losing money. That's like the best insurance of all as an FBA seller. But one question you probably have right now is, does this actually work? So I gave you a bunch of steps, all this stuff, but like, does this actually work? I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is and give you raw footage of this in action. This is where everything sort of coalesces. This is where everything I've been teaching you comes together and you actually see it in action. I'm really excited for this one. And this video is basically for two people. One, if you're just like super curious, you're like, I really just want to see the stuff he's been teaching in action. And number two, and this is who I'm most excited to reach right now, the skeptics. Okay, so if you're sitting back and you're like, I don't, the last two videos are like, I don't know about this price hacking thing, Mr. Valley. Like, you've been really skeptical. You, unfortunately, I hate to tell you this, but you're about to have all of your doubts obliterated, and you're gonna be forced to admit this is a real thing and it does work, okay? So, because I'm giving you raw footage of price hacking in action. That is what this video is about. What do we cover? What are we gonna cover in this video? So number one, I'm just gonna give you raw footage of 5 books that I found in a single session price hacking. Books I found that were 50% or more below their average price. I'm gonna just give you the live footage of me not just finding the book, but actually analyzing the book and walking you through how the numbers play out, etc., etc. I'm gonna run the profits. I'm gonna show you exactly how much we stand to make from these books. And spoiler alert, by the end of this video, you will have seen me live find $465 in expected net profit. In these 5 clips. And actually, I think it's 466. I don't know why it says 4. It's important. The extra dollar is really important. Okay, so 2 warnings before we dive into this footage, you guys. Number 1, this is raw footage. This is to destroy the skeptics. This is not some carefully edited, you know, like flash and bang, like, boom, check this out, this money, and then move on. It's like, it's raw footage. It just is raw footage. So the reason this is a warning is these are long. Okay, so I'm giving you 5 videos where I find and analyze 5 different books, and I'm gonna stack them back to back. And I'm literally showing you the entire process, from analyzing, running the numbers, the lessons that you can learn from these, and onward and onward. So this is for people that are really serious about making money with this. You notice in my, not just these videos in this series, but other videos I posted, all my videos in the past, I don't cater to people that just want quick, instant, effortless results. I don't cater to tire kickers or people that just chase shiny objects. I cater to real Amazon sellers that want to make real money, right? So when I post a video like this, where it's just raw footage, just stacked back to back, this alienates all of the tire kickers and all of the shiny object chasers and all of the kind of, you know, the people that are sort of like kind of dancing at the edges and don't really commit to anything. That's what I want to do, okay? So I'm giving it, if any of you guys, people that fall in that category are watching this right now, you're about to be very alienated, and that's by design. I'm giving raw footage for people that really want to take this stuff seriously. So here's what's about to happen. I'm going to show you 5 books that I found price hacking. I'm going to analyze each one in detail. Are you guys ready? Let's do this. Price hacking profits, raw footage example number 1, a book about Star Wars. Let's get into it. Here it is. Okay, let's examine a real-time search I just did for Star Wars books. Now, let's get one thing out of the way before I show you this book that I found. There's a lesson here. You notice how I did a search for Star Wars hardcover. Now, you've maybe heard me say over and over again in this training that it doesn't matter what you search for, just search for anything. And that's mostly true. However, anything you can do to bias the search results towards more expensive books is a good thing, okay? So there is no, like, magic bullet there, right? It's just you have to sort of think like, what would bring up a lot of really expensive books? And here's why. And I'll get back to the Star Wars thing and why I did that here in a second. Let's say you got a book who its average price is $20 and you find it for $10. So you resell it at $20. That's cool. There's some money there, right? But the way the Amazon fees work out, there's fixed fees, there's variable fees. The more you sell the book for, the greater percentage of your investment you get to keep. So in other words, if you find a book that's averaged at $100 and you buy it for $50 and you sell it for $100, you get to keep a bigger percentage of your investment. With the $20 example, it's like you only get to keep a few bucks, right? Depending on if you sell it merch fulfilled or FBA. But with the $100 example, you get to keep a lot more, not just in terms of like more money, but a greater percentage of your investment. Okay, so that's really key. So what I did is I searched for Star Wars. And unfortunately, it brought up a lot of like novels and just cheap stuff on the first page. So then I entered the word hardcover, and then that got us to where we are now. And so we're on the second page of this search, okay? And let's go down to this lovely book I just found. Okay, it's called A Jedi Path Manual for Students of the Force, whatever that is. I'm not a Star Wars guy. Okay, so you look at the chart here, right? You can see here, obviously on the far right, it's the present day, and the price is, you can't tell exactly, it looks like it's around $40 or $50, right? And you look all the way on the left, and you can see it spent a few months, looks like from September until December, it was below 100, but all the rest of the time, meaning like 9 months, it's spent above $100. So what can we glean from this? Well, not much. We got to do more scrutiny here in just a second. But you can see right now it's roughly around where it was a year ago, but it spent the majority of its time above $100. So that's a really good sign, right? Again, you don't need to look at a chart and see some crazy dramatic drop that's like to all the way to the bottom and the lines are all the way to the top, right? You just need to like see these subtle differences that can make a big difference. In this case, again, like you can see $100 and now we're around 50, so everything's looking good, but let's click over to scrutinize. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the sales rank, get that out of the way. Sales rank looks great, right? The average is in the last 180 days, 317,000. That's fantastic, right? So it's selling about one copy every, day and a half / 2 days, something like that. So that's great, right? We don't need to get too much deeper than that. I mean, you can see here that the sales rank was a lot higher, let's say the last 4 or 5 months of last year, and then it's gotten slightly worse, but it's not bad by any stretch. You can actually see right here, right towards the present day, it's actually taken a big leap up. Like, in other words, the demand has gone way, way up. It's not enough time here for us to really be able to sort of glean much from that. It might just be a fluke, but I tend to think there's something to this, because you can see here, again, we're going back 12 months right here. There may be something to this book where the last 4 or 5 months of the year, the sales demand goes way, way up. We don't really know, and I don't necessarily think we should make a decision based on that, but it is kind of interesting, right? Like, obviously sales are going to go up during Christmas, but what's going on here with August and September? We don't really know, but since we're kind of coming up on that time right now, there may be something about this book where it just is really slow. Maybe Star Wars fans have some insight here. I have no idea, right? But anyways, we don't need to get too deep into the sales rank. We know it's good. Okay, so now let's look at the used price and scrutinize that more closely. Okay, so current price, $41. Awesome. Average price is $188 in used condition over the last 6 months. Okay, so we're getting it for less than 1/4 of its average price over the last 6 months. That's bonkers, right? Now, we can't see a year in Keepa, and that number would be significantly less if we could see a year, if we could see the year statistic, because you can see here when we get just prior to Christmas, the price looks like goes back down to about where it is now. So you can see here it stayed at actually $30 for quite a while. Now, again, I'll say this over and over again in this training, but the difference between whether or not you're an FBA seller or a merchant fulfilled seller is huge when it comes to price hacking. Okay, so as you know, if you're an FBA seller, this is like, I don't even need to look any further than this, really. This is a home run. We're absolutely going to make insane money with an FBA seller. But, and I can say that confidently without even looking at it, just simply based on this price alone. Even though this doesn't reflect FBA prices, the fact this is so much lower than the average is insane, right? So we've already got a home run here. But even as a merchant fulfilled seller, I'm very, very confident that we can make money with this book. However, I'm going to scrutinize more. I'm going to scroll down here in a second, because you're probably screaming like, hey, we want to see what the other prices are. I'm getting to that. However, another point I want to make, as of the time I'm recording this video, we're a few months away from Christmas. Now, this book, of course, right, it's Star Wars, it's a hardcover, it looks like it's some kind of, I mean, it's a very giftable book, right? So, of course, the price are going to go way, way up during Christmas. I mean, of course, because it's just a supply and demand thing. And you can see that's exactly what's playing out here. It looks like literally right, I mean, it was right up until the last day. It was around of November, roughly around the last day, where it was under $50. Then you can see, boom, Friday, and we're getting close to the end of the month. On the 30th, it's still $52. It jumps up to $70 on December 2nd, and then $80 on December 4th. And then it looks like it drops down for a split second to $40 and then back up, and then it just goes up and up and up and up. And even after Christmas, it holds its value. So, in fact, even higher than even before Christmas. So what can we glean from this? Well, the question becomes, do we want to bank on the value of this book going up during Christmas? I think we can, but I like to know I can make money even without relying on Christmas. So now let's get into this. Okay, so $41 with free shipping. That is our landed cost. It means the total we're going to pay and a little bit of tax is $41. Okay, that is huge. And that's in like new condition. So everything about this I like, and actually I have more to say about it. I'm gonna get back to this in a second. Second price, $60, okay? Next, $70. Now, even if we sell merchant fulfilled, if we buy at $40 and resell, let's say we $69.99, let's say we underprice this, leapfrog over acceptable, because look, no one's gonna buy this, right? Like, look at this. Well, it's acceptable condition. They may buy it. Acceptable condition books sell. They definitely don't sell as gifts, but I think we can safely price higher than this one. So if we buy up this copy, and then we list, say, $69.99, we're still making money. We're still making like probably around $20, right? Something like that. Merch fulfilled. I won't do the math, but merch fulfilled. FBA, are you guys ready? I'm actually kind of nervous for what this even could show us. So $41, as an FBA seller, we can sell for, there's no listings for this search. Let's look at new and see if we're competing against any new offers. Okay, so the lowest new FBA offer is $190. So all we have to do is price like $179.99. Or if you want to get really, really conservative, you can do like $150. Either way, we are knocking it out of the park with this book, okay? So this one's fantastic. Everything about this. Now, this is the point I want to make before. So again, home run, everything about this, like sell it merch fulfilled, sell it FBA, we're making money, right? This is a no-brainer. But I want to show this is actually not particular to price hacking. This is something that I noticed that it makes this book even more profitable. And this is insane, you guys. Watch this. This book is in like new condition. Now, what does like new mean? Well, here's the thing, and this is going to get really, really kind of a like Jedi level, no pun intended, Jedi level bookseller here. A significant percentage of the time when you see a book in like new condition, it is actually brand new condition. Now, there's a couple clues that we can look for to actually almost confirm this book is actually a brand new book. Now, first of all, you might be wondering, why do booksellers list a new book in like new condition? There's a couple reasons. Number one, if you're a mega seller, you're always going to grade conservatively, and you're always going to have very conservative grading practices. I shouldn't say always. That's actually not fair. But when it comes to new condition, you are. The mega sellers get really sloppy with like used oftentimes. With new condition, they do not play games. So what they do by default, you can see it's a massive seller, 639,000 feedback, right? Book Outlet USA. What they do is significant, in fact, almost all instances, what they'll do, if they have a book that is not like direct from the publisher, they will just list it as like new just because they don't want to get in trouble with Amazon, right? So they're just basically selling a new book as like new because they don't want to run afoul of Amazon's rules, even though it's not really against the rules. New condition is a function of the actual condition of the book, not how many previous owners it's had. But these mega sellers have to err on the side of caution. Okay, so this book, I would bet with 80+% certainty this is a brand new book. And then if we go even further, you can see it says new unread publisher overstock copy. So there's probably some arrangement they have with the publisher where they're not allowed to sell as new, and that's probably actually a bigger driver of why mega sellers sell new books as like new. So again, this is the kind of thing you only learn from doing this for a while, but everything about this screams this is a brand new book, okay? So we don't want to bank on that because we could be wrong, but I'm going to say with 80+% certainty this is a brand new book. Now, why does this matter? Here's why. We buy this book, right? Let's say it arrives, and it is in fact brand new. Okay, again, everything screams new. New, unread, publisher copy, right? This is a brand new book. Okay, so now we're only competing with new copies. So we pay used prices, but we can sell as a new book. So, again, we're not banking on this, but the chances are really, really high, right? So this shouldn't sway our buying decision, but again, chances are better than not we can do this. Okay, so then we pay $40, we can list it at $127 new. And that's just merchant fulfilled, you guys. Okay, so given those different scenarios, merchant fulfilled or reselling FBA, let's go ahead and run the numbers on exactly what we're gonna make with both of those scenarios. So again, we've reasonably determined this is a brand new book. Yes, we could relist used merchant fulfilled, and there's still money to be made there. I'm just gonna give the most conservative pricing that I would do personally if I was gonna relist this book. So if I was gonna buy this book and resell it, which I actually am as soon as I get off this video, I'm gonna buy it for, we're gonna buy it for 42. Merch fulfilled will relist for 127 as we showed, and FBA will list it for 179. So drum roll, are you guys ready? Merchant fulfilled profit $64.15. FBA profit, $101.56. You guys, the numbers do not lie. Everything about this book is amazing. So I just took you through the entire process of a successful price hack search. Second page of Star Wars hardcover results. Everything about this book is awesome. And all we used was Keepa, right? That's all we need to make a buying decision is Keepa. And everything about this book is great. And let's recap. We're paying $41, $42, $41, whatever it is. Merchant fulfilled profit, $64.15. FBA profit, $101.56. Book number 2. Check it out. Okay, here is an interesting one. So I just did a search for economics, and I found this book called Modern Principles of Economics. Now, this is something you don't see very often, but when you do, it's very, very cool when you're price hacking. So hovered over this, and you can see the chart is not anything to get excited about. In fact, if anything, it looks higher than the average price, or at least not that much lower. It's selling for 120. So I was about to keep going. In fact, I did start scrolling, then I noticed, wait a minute, why does it say 60? I was like, wait a minute, this clearly says, you can see next to the graph, this is a marketplace used, 120. And it took me about half a second, then I realized this means that someone has priced a new offer below the used offer. Because remember, the way I have my chart set up is it's only showing used, right? You can actually set your chart to show new or new and used. The way I have my settings is I tend to just focus on used books. However, it's possibly to my detriment because, particularly in this instance, I almost didn't catch this, where this must mean that there's a new offer well below, and that's $60. That's like half of the used offer, which means you can instantly buy the new offer and relist it as used and make like, I don't know how much money, right? So that's my thought process. Then I clicked over and I was like, all right, I need to figure out what's going on here. So I clicked over. My suspicions were mostly confirmed. So these are all rentals. We ignore those. It is $60. However, it's $20 with shipping, but that's still $80 for a new copy. Whereas the used offers, the lowest one is $124. So again, we're going to pay $80 for this, and we can relist for $124. And again, that's not even new. So there's a couple things going on here. So the easiest money here is to buy for $80, relist at $120, and profit the difference merch fulfilled. That's like the low-hanging fruit of this whole equation, right? But we can keep going. Let's say we want to list FBA. And there's actually more to this here I'm going to get to in a second. This is really unusual. So let's just say we're going to list FBA. I didn't even look at the sales rank. I'll just look at that really quick. Sales rank is great. Okay, cool. Moving on. So now here's the thing. Okay, so let's just go ahead and say we're going to buy new and then resell used FBA. $164, you guys. So as FBA sellers, we are just killing it. Okay, so but that's not all. It's still about to get even better. Now, here is a thing about buying new books from third-party sellers. They end up in your mailbox in used condition a lot of the time. Now, it's not most of the time, and it's definitely a double-digit percentage of the time. I don't do this that often, so I would hesitate to give you like even a ballpark number, but I would say 20-25% of the time, possibly even more, they are not arriving in new condition. Then you just have to get a refund, right? But the odds are still in our favor. So we're ordering this new book, paying $80 for it. We could potentially relist this in new condition. Again, the odds are better than not that we can. Okay, so then the question becomes, what can we list it for new? So let's do this entire thing over again. We're going to look at the new condition FBA offers. Merchant fulfilled offers, and then new condition FBA offers. Okay. So new condition merchant fulfilled, we pay $80, $229, you guys. And again, we have about I'm just totally ballparking here, a 75% chance of us being able to do exactly that. And there's only what? I guess there's a bunch of offers. But anyway, we've got a bunch of math to do here in a second, but this is getting even more appetizing. Okay, so now, and actually we can see here, I was about to do the equation of, okay, what can we relist it for new FBA? And the answer again is $229. But let's actually just see if we're going to skip that one, because again, the rank here is pretty good. Like, we could potentially price higher. So Amazon's selling it for $304. Now, that's our only other FBA competition in new condition. So we could list this at, $290. We're going to want to underprice Amazon by a significant amount. But I'm just looking up the average, the new price history here. So you can see in new condition, the average price is $215 over the last 180 days. So you guys, this is just like, by every measure, this is a home run. Okay, so we got a bunch of math to do now. So let's start from the beginning. We're going to do the math on the easiest money here, which is if we bought new and relisted used merchant fulfilled. Okay, so let's run the numbers on this. Let's go from most conservative to most money. Okay, so we'll start it. Remember, we talked about merchant fulfilled. We can list it for $124, and FBA we can list it for $164. So drum roll. Oh, whoops, forgot to enter that. 80 and 80. Okay, drum roll. Hit the calculate button, and $23.60 profit merchant fulfilled. Now, those numbers are not amazing. We're paying $80 for the book, right? So that's like, 7% returns or something. That's not amazing, but remember, that is the worst case scenario. Like, there's virtually no scenario whereby that you wouldn't make money and you wouldn't be able to list that price and get a very quick sale. When you consider the rank and everything, that's pretty quick money, right? So $23, worst case scenario, selling FBA, and again, we're buying a new book and listing it used. We haven't gotten a new yet. $52 in profit. Okay, so now let's run the numbers on new condition. Remember, both ways, new or used, 229 is the number. So, again, drum roll. Merchant fulfilled, listing in new condition, our profit will be $112. And listing FBA in new condition, $107. Not that much of a difference when the numbers get that high in terms of FBA versus merchant fulfilled. So you guys, this is like stupid easy money. And let's recap what we just watched. We paid $79.97 for this book. Best case scenario with merchant fulfilled, $112.85 in expected net profit. Best case scenario with FBA, $108 in net profit. Hey guys, super weird insert here. I just inserted this little sliver of video at the last possible minute. What we're gonna do here is something really weird, so bear with me. I decided to go back and look at this book 2 weeks later after I recorded what you just saw and realized, as expected, the book had actually rebounded towards its average, as tends to happen in the marketplace on Amazon. And the price had gone way up merchant fulfilled. This is a really powerful lesson. So watch this next clip to see what happened, what I just saw when I went back 2 weeks later and how much the price had changed in 2 weeks. When you find a book that's underpriced, all you have to do is wait and the price rebounds. Watch this. Okay, guys, did you catch that? We just went through a time machine. Okay, so it is now 2 weeks after the last several minutes we just spent together, right? So the last time I looked at this book, that was 2 weeks ago. I'm recording this 2 weeks later. And the reason I'm doing this is to show you guys how powerful price hacking is, because one of the questions that comes up a lot is, okay, well, you think you can list at this price, but how do you really know, right? Like, you analyze the data, but you think you're so smart, but you don't really know. Well, you don't know, but I can certainly demonstrate how easy it is to read the data and see which way the wind is blowing, so to speak. So, what do you see right here, you guys? Do I need to get out a tattoo gun and tattoo it on your forehead? I don't think so. The price has gone. I remember paying $80 for that book. Wait 2 weeks. The lowest used price is now $171. Now, again, this isn't like, I didn't know. I didn't have a crystal ball. I didn't know this was going to happen. But we can look at the average. We can see the way things are trending, right? All the stuff I've been teaching you, that we can tell that the price is not going to stay at $80. A book cannot stay mispriced forever. It must recalibrate. The prices must restore a sort of equilibrium, right? That's how, again, I don't have a degree in economics, speaking of economics textbooks, but I know enough. I know how to read the data, right? And we know what was going to happen here, which is the price is going to rebound to its true market value, $171. I could go and reassess this book all over again, reanalyze it, show you what you could sell it for if you just waited 2 weeks. I'm not going to do that. I just want you guys to see, again, $80, and if all we did is match the lowest merchant fulfilled price right now, worst, most conservative case scenario, $171 sale. That is the power of price hacking. Up next, book number 3. I wanted to give you guys one example of doing price hacking with new condition books. because people have been asking, what's the difference between doing this with new condition and used condition? And the answer is nothing. There really is no difference at all. The only difference I can really, if I had to come up with something, I would say, hey, like just kind of be on your guard, because a certain percentage of the time when you order a new condition book from a third-party seller, it doesn't arrive in new condition. It's going to happen, you know, a decent amount, a double-digit percentage of the time, not close to 50%, but definitely a certain percentage of the time. So there is an increased risk there. However, there's an increased opportunity as well, because for whatever reason, you see price drops a lot more in new condition than used. Now, let me show you this book I just found. I don't even remember how I found this one, but I want to give you an example of a price hacking with a new condition book. Okay, so I have the 12-month chart here for new condition, and I'm going to go ahead and filter by new so we can see what we're looking at here. So you can see, first of all, in this chart, it looks like just in the last couple days, like maybe even 1 day, 1 or 2 days, the price has plummeted. It was $300 as recently as a couple days ago, and the price has plummeted. Okay, then you can see it actually spent some time kind of down here. But the average price, we can come at that very quickly, $141 in the last 180 days. $141. The highest was $409. So to have this book for sale right now at $17 is insane, right? So let's go ahead and look at the sales rank really quick, get that out of the way. Okay, so this book is just like flying off the shelves, right? The average is 250,000. Okay, so that checks out. Now, here's something that's interesting. When one seller drops the price of a book, new or used, it's very often to see every other seller follow them downwards. In other words, you might see the average price, I mean, as we showed, is, you know, $140, whatever it is. It just takes one seller to drop the price to 15, 17, 20, whatever it is, and every other seller, at least every other seller using repricing software, follows suit. So it becomes this crazy dog pile at the bottom, and that just leaves you with tons of options. So the reason I mention this is that in most of the examples I've shown you in this series, what I've done is I've shown you, hey, there's this one outlier book where the price is dropped, and then the second in line is like way higher and allows you to profit, right? You notice here, this is all seven. There's 1, 2, 3, 6 $17 copies. And by the way, it's not a coincidence. They're all exactly the same price. Literally, you know, again, a couple days ago it was 300. Someone came along and dropped their price to 17, and everyone else followed suit, right? That's how these mega sellers operate. They deal in turnover. They don't deal in intelligence. Okay, so that's what we're seeing here. So there's really nothing alarming here. This is one for you FBA sellers, which is me. It's probably most of us. This is not one for merch fulfilled sellers. Now, this book is selling like fast, right? So theoretically, and again, we can see here, this spends almost all its time above $150, right? So theoretically, you could buy one merch fulfilled, relist at merch fulfilled, and probably at some point, you know, you could relist at 100, whatever you want. Probably at some point, the price is going to bounce back, right? But as of this moment, you are competing with quite a few other merch fulfilled sellers. However, what do you think is going to happen when I check this Prime box? Any guesses? I think I know. Nothing. No competing offers whatsoever. As an FBA seller, we own this listing in new condition. We own it. And by the way, you guys, just as an aside, for those of you that are skittish about buying new condition books, like you really shouldn't be, but if you're skittish, here's something here's what I mentioned. When you see a price drop that is this severe, I mean, we're talking about going from 300 or an average of 150 down to $17. You know what I would do to hedge your bets if you were really concerned? Again, I've said this before, but you know, you're going to get your book in the condition you expect, like 80+% of the time. But if you're concerned, buy 2 copies, buy 3 copies, buy 4 copies. It doesn't even matter, because the profit we're going to make is going to offset all those costs like threefold, right? We own this listing. So what would I list this for in new condition? Personally, and everyone, you know, every seller has a different opinion about how they list something. New condition, minimum. Actually, let's look at the used price before we even know. I can't even really comment until I see what the used FBA competition is. Okay, so used is pretty low, right? It's 28, 30. Okay, so we're not even going to compete with those, right? So in new condition, again, so we're just targeting buyers that just want to book in new condition. What would I do? Minimum of $100. Whoops. Minimum of $100 in new condition. In fact, I would probably, since the average merch fulfilled price is 140, whatever it is, I would go I would go 199 minimum, right? I mean 100 minimum, but probably 199. I think you could get even higher, right? Textbook season comes around, you've got some kid who's got his parents' credit card or whatever, right? Professor that needs a new whatever the case may be, and it's gonna sell. So we're paying again $17 for a new condition copy, and we own the listing in new condition, right? So again, the price of 100. What did 3 copies cost at $17 each? What's that? $51, I think, roughly. Look, you sell it for 100. You sell 1 copy at 100. How much you put in your pocket? 75, whatever that comes out to. You're still making money, even if you sold 1, right? But you're gonna sell more than 1 because you have 3. And worst case scenario, you list it used FBA. Worst case scenario. And what did I say? It's the lowest is 26 right now. That'll go up a little bit in textbook season. Sell for 35. You're still making money. Like, there's no way you can lose money on this book. And there's a crazy likelihood you're going to sell it for tons of money and make tons of profit, right? So I guess the reason I want to make this video is a couple things. Number 1, to show you an example of a new condition book. Number 2, to give you the lesson that when one seller drops their price, a bunch of others can drop their price, and you can still make money even as a merch fulfilled seller if you're competing against a bunch of other offers. As I showed you, this is not going to last. Like, this is not going to last. We are at a very narrow sliver in time when this book is at $17. It's going to jump way up. You can see here it's barely spent any time at this amount. It's only happened the last couple days. It's dipped down a little bit over here, maybe once right here. The rest of the time, most of the time, either over 150, little dips down to 60. So, I mean, this book's a home run. So there's lots of lessons in this video. Don't ignore new condition. Don't be intimidated if a bunch of other sellers have dropped their price at the same time. Doesn't mean anything. The price is probably going to go back up. You can buy new and resell used and still make money. There's just lots of lessons with this one. Great example here. Price hacking, you guys. This is how the money is made. And let's go ahead and run the numbers on this. This is pretty straightforward. We're going to sell this FBA, and we're going to list it, as I said, for $199. So, drum roll. I don't know if you guys can hear that. $142.63 in expected net profit. This is a totally reasonable price, right? We have no competing FBA offers whatsoever in new condition. We own this listing. The rank is good, and anyone who sold textbooks on Amazon for any amount of time knows that pricing $100+ $150 above the lowest merch fulfilled offer still will get you sales. So again, this is a very reasonable price, very reasonable to expect $142 in net profit. Okay, quickly, let's recap what we just saw. We paid $16.92 for this book. Not really any merch fulfilled profit with this one, but as an FBA seller, we stand to make $142.55. Next up, book number 4. Okay, here's another one. I did a search for writing in Pearson, and Pearson being a textbook publisher. And the first result is this one. So I hovered over, of course, and it didn't actually look that good at a glance, but you can see what happens. Sometimes you notice if the maximum price that's been detected is really super high, it expands the range of the chart such that everything below a certain amount just all looks the same. Like, in other words, it could be, $40, it could be $10, and it basically all looks the same. So but I clicked over and check out the rank quick. Everything looks great. Average 376,000 for the last 6 months. That's fantastic. Textbook, everything looks good. Okay, so let's check out the used price chart. And okay, so again, nothing about this looks terribly amazing. Like, you don't see any crazy downward plunges. But for some reason, I glanced at this one. I noticed something interesting. Now, this is not quite the home run that you've seen in some of the other videos. It is, but it's a home run in a different way. It's a home run for FBA sellers, but not for merch fulfilled sellers. Let me show you what I found. The average price is $57 in the last 180 days, and I think that's what caught my eye. Okay, so $57, and it's selling for $25 right now, plus postage, so $29-ish. We'll round up to $30. So, anyway, that's not like, I mean, that's good, right? It's like 30 versus 60 essentially, if we were to round up a little bit. So, not bad at all, right? So it's pretty significantly below average. Now, you notice the first result says water damage. Water damage is just about the only deal breaker when it comes to condition. I don't care. First of all, this person should not have listed this as good condition. Water damage always means acceptable. So that was a mistake on their part. I doubt they'll last very long. 93% positive feedback. They should not be doing that. That's a major shenanigan. Okay, so next result, $29. We'll round up to 30. Good condition. So I like this one. Everything about this looks good. It's, the seller feedback's not that great, but no major red flags here. Good condition book, pay $30 for. The average 57, I like that so far. And again, even though we've got a little competitor here in the form of this one, this is, it's got water damage, right? Now here's the thing. A lot of Amazon buyers aren't necessarily the most astute. Like oftentimes they're moving fast. They don't have a lot of time to hold a magnifying glass up to every single book and every single listing. But water damage, I mean, that's like anyone's going to pass on that book, right? Like you'd have to be just like completely not paying attention. No one's going to want it. I want to say no one, but it's going to be very rare someone is going to knowingly buy a book that has water damage, right? So I don't consider this competitive like at all. Even though it's in good condition, I don't consider that competitive. Very few buyers are simply not going to notice that. So really, if we're paying $30, all we're really competing against, and this is another accepted one with a water stain and writing or highlighting. Like this is another one where it's like, I'm not going to say I'm not going to say no one's going to buy this book. Someone's going to buy it eventually, but it's not really a competitive offer, right? So I'm only interested in competing with this. If I'm buying a good condition book, I'm skipping these two acceptable ones, and I'm competing with this one, which is $59. So we're already making money, right? And this is probably what 376,000 rank is sort of, that's good, right? But it's not like selling multiple copies a day. So I would go ahead and probably safely just go ahead and compete with this one. And so that's merch fulfilled, right? Now let's look at FBA. So paying $30, we can list this one for $95. And by the way, you notice there's no new condition copies at all. It's not really terribly relevant. It's just kind of a good thing. So $95. So let's run both these numbers. So 95 and what did I say? 60? 63. Okay, let's run the numbers on this. So 63, 99 is actually 100, and we're gonna pay 30. Hit calculate. Okay, so if we're a merch fulfilled seller, or we're just gonna sell this merch fulfilled, we expect to make around $22 profit. And if we sell this FBA, we're gonna make $48 in profit. Awesome, right? Interesting thing to note, you can see what happened here was that somebody came along and priced their book really, really below market value, which is probably this person here, because they're not like a huge seller. So they probably came along and they just didn't know what they were doing. They priced their book either mistakenly low, or they just simply didn't know what they were doing. And then Textbook Rush, who probably has automated repricing software, had to chase them down because Textbook Rush is probably always matching the lowest offer. And that's probably what happened, right? So you got two sellers that are, one of them's chasing the other, and the rest are like, the heck with that, I'm not playing that game. We're going to price this book at what it's really worth. And so that's the $60 and $76 offers. And by the way, merch fulfilled, I mean, I didn't even mention this. Like, okay, so let's see exactly what we're competing against here. So you notice again, acceptable. There are no merchant fulfilled good condition offers. So again, if we're just going to choose to ignore all acceptable, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend against, it's really a question of how fast you need your money. I wouldn't recommend against it. So you could really price your book at whatever shipping you said as a merch fulfilled seller, so it amounts to just either matches with this or is like just under this. So you could make it so yours is like $99.95 or something. Or maybe because this is Prime and there's a lot of benefits to buying Prime, you might want to make it go to like 95 or something, right? Because merch fulfilled, you might lose out to the Prime offer, even to merch fulfilled buyers, even non-Prime subscribers. You might lose out to the Prime buyer, or to the Prime offer rather, if you're not more than like a few bucks below their price, right? Because most people, even if they're not Prime subscribers, are willing to pay a little more to get Prime. So let's just say you're going to price this at 95. And as an FBA seller, of course, same thing. You're just going to match this, right? So that's 100. So let's go ahead and run the numbers on these. Okay, so we're going to do 95 merch fulfilled, 100 FBA. We're paying 30. Drum roll. Okay, as a merchant fulfilled seller, wow, we're making almost exactly the same. Merchant fulfilled, again, ignoring all acceptable condition offers, $48.95. And as an FBA seller, we're going to make $48. So basically the same either way. Now, in the interest of fairness, because some of you are like, well, you know what? I don't want to price that high. I don't want to, I do want to compete with acceptable condition offers. I want the fastest sale possible. So let's go ahead and run the numbers on that. If you're going to sell merchant fulfilled, let's just go ahead and say let's go ahead and say you're not going to play the game where you're the bottom feeder game where you're pricing yours at 30. Let's just say you don't want to be too aggressive. You want to price yours at like 58, okay? Like just below this offer. And again, I wouldn't really recommend this necessarily, but it's not like the worst strategy. And I imagine a lot of you are sort of thinking that right now. So I want to kind of I want to run the numbers for you guys. So in that instance, you'd be making $17.50, pricing, like what did I say, like third in line, whatever that amounts to, right? So again, not a bad strategy. It's a safer strategy for sure. But either way, you're making money, right? Obviously, I prefer the $48 position for obvious reasons. But you guys, so there's a couple lessons here. Number one, something about that caught my eye. You can see that dip towards the very end, and that's the only reason I clicked over. But, I guess the lesson here is if you see a dip and you think there might be something there, go ahead and click over and see what's going on, because sometimes it can bear fruit. And recapping book number 4 very quickly, $29 what we paid, $29.62. Merch fulfilled profit, a fairly modest $17.50, although not that modest when you consider that's over 50% returns, right? Not too bad. FBA profit, $48.92, over doubling our money. Next up, the last example, book number 5. Hey guys, I'm going to do something very, very special with this particular example, so I want you to pay extra special attention to this one more than all the others. Here's why. Not because it's the best. I'm just going to do something different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this book I just found, and then I'm going to come back to this exact book in 2 weeks, and I'm going to show you what our results are. Because I bet a lot of you are thinking, all right, so we're buying these books, and we're just expecting the price is going to go up back to its average, or we're just expecting this outcome or that outcome. But how does this actually play out in real life? So I decided to make a video for you guys, you skeptics. And I don't blame you, by the way. I would be thinking the exact same thing, right? So fingers crossed that this is going to trend in the direction I think it will. And hopefully that's going to be really good to show you. Okay, so let's show you this book I just found. And you can see here the average is amazing. It's selling fantastically well. The average is 236,000, which means it's selling about 1 point or maybe 0.9 copies, 0.8 copies a day. It's fantastic. Look at the use price. Huge plummet in the last day or so. So you can see it spends a lot of its time around 80. Everything about it looks awesome. This is exactly what we're looking for, right? Just a huge plummet. Lowest price copy, $34 in good condition. Okay, so not too bad, right? That's a huge plummet. Obviously, it looks like another copy, another seller chased them downwards. And then we see, it looks like it takes a big leap up to $57. So not exactly a ton of room for profit. So it's not exactly a really easy, quick merchant fulfilled to merchant fulfilled resale. I mean, you can do that, and there's still some room for profit there, but it's not like a huge home run, right? So what we're looking at here is slightly encouraging. Now let's look at the prime offer. So again, we're paying what? I've already forgot. 35, whatever it was. Lowest FBA price, you guys, is $130. Let me just go back and I already forgot. Okay, so yeah, so $34 what we're paying good condition. $34. And let's run the numbers on this one. $34 and $130. So $130 FBA. And $34, drum roll. Net profit, you guys, just about $69 reselling this FBA. Again, this is not a book we ever would have paid attention to or ever would have found if there wasn't that giant price plummet visible in the Keepa charts. Not to mention the fact our profits wouldn't be anywhere close to this if this was not a price hacked book that was priced dramatically below its average. This is price hacking, you guys. I love it. Okay, you guys, we're back. We just went through a time machine, a literal time machine, literal time machine, and it's now 2 weeks later. So I promised you we were going to come back and review this book 2 weeks later and see what had happened. Again, when we're buying underpriced books, I want to be really clear about this. We're expecting the price is going to rebound back to its average, right? Now, I can't actually remember what the average was for the book we just looked at, but whatever the case may be, we assume we're only looking at books that are priced dramatically below their average, right? So I think it was like, that book was like literally priced like over 50% below its average, right? So again, when we buy a price hacked book, we're expecting the book is going to rebound back to its average. That's what average means, right? It spends half its time above, half its time below. And that's not the actual definition of average, by the way. I'm just I'm just keeping it simple. But with that understanding, we're expecting the price is going to go back up, and so we get the profit, right? Now, even if it doesn't, with these price hacking examples I've been giving you, even if the merchant fulfilled price never rebounds, we're still making money, right? I'm showing you examples where that's the case, but in the worst case scenario where we don't actually like sell right away for the price we think we are, again, we're assuming the price is going to rebound. So with the worst case scenario, that would honestly never really happen unless you wanted it to, but if you were, the worst case scenario is always selling merchant fulfilled, matching the lowest merchant fulfilled price. And the premise of price hacking is that even if we did that, as long as we waited for the price to rebound, we're still making money. So I already know the answer here, but spoiler alert, this one's good, you guys. Okay, so again, we're back in that book, and I was like, how's this gonna go? This could go really badly. All rentals, rental. We still haven't gotten to the lowest merchant fulfilled price yet. Boom, you guys. Remember, in the example you just saw, which I recorded 2 weeks ago, it's new to you, 2 weeks old for me. It was $34 was the cheapest merchant fulfilled price used. And then I think there was another one that was like around 35 or something, then one that was 58, if I'm not mistaken. My numbers may be off, but that's basically what it was, right? Fast forward 2 weeks, and the price has rebounded. We are now, the lowest merchant fulfilled price, $97. The second one is $99. Lowest new is $100. We don't even care about that. Now, remember... okay, so we can bask in the glory of that for a second, right? We just found a book using price hacking methods, very, very simple. Same method I've been teaching you, analyzing the keeper charts, going really fast down the page, etc., searching for textbooks. We found a price hacked book. Now, all we had to do was wait 2 weeks, and the price has almost, help me out here, almost tripled. Almost tripled in 2 weeks. Because again, a book cannot stay unnaturally underpriced for very long. The market is always going to correct it. That's the premise of price hacking and why it's so powerful. Let's just go back and run the numbers again. If we had bought that book, and I did buy the book, by the way, none of it isn't for sale yet, so none of these are mine. But if you had bought this book at the price at when that was reflected in the original video that I showed you a few minutes ago, we were going to sell for $130 FBA, and we were paying $34. Is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, so $69. You guys remember that? That was only a couple minutes ago for you. It was 2 weeks ago for me. So now, okay, so let's run the numbers on if we had bought that book when I recorded the video initially, which was a couple minutes ago for you. It was 2 weeks ago for me. If we had actually bought the book back then, what could we be making right now? So again, lowest merchant fulfilled, again, is $97. So let's just say worst case scenario, right? We listed for 97 merchant fulfilled, and we had paid 34. Again, we jumped on an opportunity. We're making $46, you guys, in net profit. A little bit for shipping, basically $46 net profit. And that's just selling merchant fulfilled. I don't even know what the FBA price is. I don't even want to deal with that, you guys. This is the power of price hacking. Books cannot stay underpriced very long. They're always going to return to their average. I don't want to say always, but the odds are in our favor. Their prices are going to rebound when you find a book dramatically underpriced, okay? So that's the power of price hacking, you guys. It's basically free money. It's not quite free because you have to pay for it, which is the opposite of free. But it's easy money when you know how to do it right. So thank you guys for watching. And let's recap what we just did. Book number 5, we paid $44. Merchant fulfilled profit, $46.87. If we waited just a brief 2 weeks, FBA profit immediately $68.85, over doubling our money.